Welcome to Nostalgia Trippin on channel Van Ran 10. Today's date, January 23rd, 2018. Uh, we're going to take a journey, you'll probably see it in the title, to the early 90s to mid 90s to talk about Beavis and Butthead. We are going to go on a very short journey, but we'll see. We'll see how many people actually remember Beavis and Butthead. I'm sure a lot of people my age remember Beavis and Butthead a little bit younger, um, but we'll see. So join me, won't you, as we take a little stroll down Nostalgia Pass. I was going to say memory lane, but that's cliche. Maybe Nostalgia Pass will catch on. Maybe Nostalgia Walkway. Nostalgia moving sidewalk. Because, I'm old and I prefer a moving sidewalk to walking anytime. So we're going to talk about Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead came out in 1993. May 8th or March 8th was its first episode. And it was on MTV. There was a short that was called Frog Baseball that played on Liquid Television, which was also on MTV. Liquid Television was a place where cutting edge animation or just weird animation that really didn't have a place in the mainstream would be shown. These are some of the early shows that MTV started to show when they were going away from music videos. Liquid Television was a pretty cool show. Beavis and Butthead, of course, was a monstrous hit for them. It was basically about two teenage boys named Beavis and Butthead, and they kind of got into. They were both very stupid. I mean, we won't sugarcoat it. They were both morons, but that's what they would play off of. They would do stupid things, and they could just you knew they were stupid, so it was okay. Um, I watched the show. I used to love the show. I watched it in 1993, 1994, which was probably its heyday. Started to die out a little bit, I think, in 95. I remember thinking, it was all lowbrow humor, but it was funny for its time. Hadn't seen anything like it. Most animation, even The Simpsons, who I think premiered way back in '89, didn't quite have the same kind of bite. Basically, Beavis and Butthead was almost like, the Roseanne at the time. There was a lot more biting edge. I mean, you look back at Roseanne and how she acted, and you might even look at like Married with Children. Those shows were very different than any other sitcoms that were on the air at the time. Beavis and Butthead was very different than any animation that was on the air at the time. South Park might have came out a little bit around that time as well. I can't remember when South Park debuted. Um, but Beavis and Butthead was a monstrous hit. I mean, MTV, um, they had the bull by the horns on that one. They did really well with that show. They released a lot of stuff. I mean, they released a lot of books and junk. I even have some of them. This was an early book from theirs. Now remember, this series came out in 1993. This book came out in 1993, and it's even called "This Book Sucks." Now, just think how popular you have to be to crank out a book in the same year you debut. This book is just basically it's just random junk. I mean, I don't know who's that a letter to. I have no idea. They have a thing in here. It's like they have all these lists of words, and you could, pick one from each list, and you could come up with a band name. Here's some. I guess these were things they wanted to be tattoos or something. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to see if you guys can see, but this book came out in '93. I mean, basically it came out very, very, very quickly. Um, that's how popular they were. I mean, they pumped out one of these things. This thing is $10 when I bought it brand new. $10, and it's look at that. It's not very thick. That's a very thin. That's a very thin book. There's only about I don't know I don't know, 50 pages. They don't number them. I guess they didn't think Beavis and Butthead fans could count, so they didn't bother numbering it. $10 for that book. It takes maybe 15 minutes to read. 15 minutes, half hour. You know, if you're looking at the pictures. But, you know, hilarious for the time. I was a huge Beavis and Butthead fan at the time, so of course I had to have this book. I had a job. Yeah, I'm going to spend it $10. Actually made me go into a bookstore. I think I bought it in Walden Books. I don't even know if they have those anymore. I know they have Borders, but I don't know if Walden Books exists. They used to be a mall store. I think they were owned by the same people that owned like Sam Goody and Suncoast Video and some of those. Don't quote me on that either. I'm not real positive on those. Beavis and Butthead was known for, in between their little skits, they would watch videos. And they would make fun of the videos or make fun of themselves or something like that. The beauty of it was I found some amazing music that I had never heard of through them. I had never heard of White Zombie. Thunder Kiss 65 and Black Sunshine were great songs. Saw them on Beavis and Butthead first. Danzig had the song Mother. Never heard of Danzig before. And it was really, I loved the song, so I bought the album. Also, Primus. I think My Name is Mud was on there. And I'm going, wow, I like this song too. I'd never heard of Primus. And so, I mean, Beavis and Butthead introduced me to a lot of bands that I normally wouldn't have ever seen. I mean, they just weren't in my normal playlist. In fact, I think in the early to mid '90s, I was listening to a lot of, I was still listening to a lot of rap, and I was also listening, weirdly enough, to a lot of country, because a girl I wanted to be with at the time was getting into country, so I wanted to take up country with her. I even went to the Grizzly Rose. I learned how to do the achy breaky line dance. That's right. I learned how to do it. I was terrible at it. I watched my feet the entire time, and they were probably very regretful that I was doing it, but, you know, what can you do? Beavis and Butthead, when they would release their videos, they would release the videos without, when they would release like the DVDs or VHSs or whatever, they would release them without the music videos because they didn't have the license to it. So you take away a big important chunk of those videos, so I never could watch them. Because you watch just for the Beavis and Butthead storylines, they're terrible. Some of them are funny, but most of them are just bad. But, you know, the music videos always kind of broke it up. You got to listen to some good music, and you got to hear them kind of make fun of them. And they were pretty clever at the time. Mike Judge is the guy that created them. He's probably better known for the movie Office Space. And the reason I didn't go see Office Space is because I was over Beavis and Butthead, and I did not want to watch a movie made by the guy who made Beavis and Butthead. He also did King of the Hill, which was really popular too. But I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see Office Space. I'm going, you know, what can he possibly offer except for this childish humor that I see on Beavis and Butthead? And then my friend made me watch Office Space. Great movie. Loved it. But, so Beavis and Butthead, those videos that come out, they don't have the music videos in them. They lose a little bit. Beavis and Butthead had a little bit of controversy. Beavis used to always say fire a lot. I mean, he just loved saying fire. I do the imitation, but I'm not as good as I used to be at it. My voice is a little deeper, and it doesn't get as high as Beavis's was. But I guess a kid either set his mobile home on fire or set his sibling on fire, or set the mobile home on fire with his sibling in it. So so MTV basically made the creators. They said Beavis has to stop saying fire. So there's actually a video where they kind of poke fun at it a little bit. There's actually a guy in a music video running, and he's on fire. He's just running in slow motion. He's on fire, and Beavis is mesmerized. He can't say a word until Butthead basically slaps him out of it, and Beavis is like, what just happened? Because, of course, the video was over at the time. So it was kind of poking fun at the fact he couldn't say anything, but this video is just, you know, a guy running on fire, which would have had Beavis screaming it out a year earlier. Beavis and Butthead then later, you know, they were still releasing a lot of stuff. This is a book that came out in 1995. It's called Beavis and Butthead, This Sucks, Change It. And I want you to see how thick this book is. The cover is as thick as the content. And this is another just not really super good book. It's a 15-minute read. So you're going, this book, how much does this cost? How much does this cost? $20. $20 American. But you know why it cost $20 American? This thing. It had a little remote. And of course, all of these made Beavis and Butthead noises. Now this thing doesn't work anymore. If I put new batteries in it, it might, but it takes like little watch batteries, and I don't have any of those available. But this little thing right here, I mean, this thing plus this book is probably $4 worth of actual material, but it still costs 20 bucks, and I paid 20 bucks. I didn't get this thing on a discount. That book came out in 1995. That was a little bit more towards the end of their run. They weren't doing as well in the ratings, and I think people had kind of gotten tired of them. They did a movie called Beavis and Butthead Do America. Surprisingly pretty good. There was some laughs, and you could tell he had matured up the comedy a little bit, made it a little bit more, you know, some of the jokes a little bit more sophisticated, and it was a good movie. It's kind of like you wouldn't expect that movie to be that good because, you know, Beavis and Butthead content wasn't that great. But the movie was. It's kind of like where the Simpsons movie where you're going, oh, the Simpsons hadn't been good in years, but the movie was really good. So the Beavis and Butthead was kind of the same thing. It's like, man, the content hadn't been good in years, or in the you know, whatever amount of time before that movie finally came out. I think it came out in '97. But it was a good movie. It was actually very entertaining. It was a pretty decent little story to come out of that. It just shows Mike Judge can definitely write a movie. I think he wrote the screenplay for that. But that's all I have to say on it. I just wanted to kind of show you the books, talk a little bit about Beavis and Butthead, see if it maybe brings back some memories for you. So if you're watching and you liked it, subscribe, please. Like it. You know, like I said, right now I have like 3 subscribers, so I'm just plugging away doing my schedule. If you want to see more Nostalgia Trip, and I'm going to do these every Tuesday, and I'll have something different next Tuesday to talk about from the 80s and early 90s, maybe a little late 90s, but stuff that I watched when I was younger. You know, I'm not as young as I used to be back then. But it's like it's fun to reminisce about it. It's fun to find these again and kind of remember the videos that I used to watch, and some of the music that I actually enjoyed watching this cartoon. I mean, getting into White Zombie, getting into Danzig, getting into Primus. It's a pretty amazing that this little cartoon that's making fun of videos, and you find some really good music out of it. So I'll end it there. To all the troops, past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.